The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead as Marcus walked down the long hospital corridor, his 2-year-old son Tyler nestled securely in his arms. The little boy wore his favorite Superman t-shirt, the bright red and blue colors a stark contrast against the sterile white walls surrounding them. Marcus's worn sneakers squeaked against the polished linoleum floor with each careful step he took. It had been another sleepless night. Tyler's fever had spiked again around 3 in the morning, and Marcus had spent hours pacing the small apartment, running cool washcloths over his son's burning forehead. When the thermometer read 103 degrees, Marcus knew he couldn't wait any longer for their regular pediatrician's office to open. The emergency room had been crowded and chaotic. After what felt like hours of waiting, a tired-looking nurse had finally called Tyler's name. Now they were being transferred to the pediatric wing for further observation. Marcus shifted Tyler's weight in his arms, feeling the boy's small body still radiating heat despite the fever reducer they had given him downstairs. "Daddy tired," Tyler mumbled against Marcus's shoulder, his usual energetic chatter reduced to barely audible whispers. "I know, buddy," Marcus said softly, pressing a gentle kiss to his son's damp hair. "We're going to make you feel better, okay? The doctors here are really smart." Marcus had been raising Tyler alone for the past year and a half. It hadn't been easy. Between working double shifts at the construction site and taking care of a toddler, most days felt like an uphill battle. But Tyler was his world, his reason for getting up every morning and pushing through the exhaustion. The hospital bills were already piling up from previous visits. Tyler seemed to catch every bug that went around daycare, and each trip to urgent care or the emergency room added another layer of financial stress to Marcus's already stretched budget. He tried not to think about how he would pay for this visit as he followed the directions the nurse had given him. Room 214 was supposed to be just around the corner. Marcus glanced at the room numbers as he walked, trying to keep Tyler comfortable while navigating the maze of hallways. The pediatric wing was decorated with colorful murals of cartoon animals and rainbows, clearly designed to make the environment less intimidating for young patients and their families. "Almost there, Tyler," Marcus whispered, though he wasn't entirely sure his son was still awake. As they rounded the corner, Marcus spotted a woman in a crisp business suit walking purposefully down the hallway toward them. She was tall and elegant, with blonde hair pulled back in a professional style. Even from a distance, there was something commanding about her presence. She carried herself with the confidence of someone accustomed to being in charge. Marcus assumed she was probably a department head or administrator making her rounds. Hospitals seemed to have a lot of people in expensive suits walking around, making important decisions that regular people like him would never fully understand. The woman was engaged in what appeared to be a serious conversation with another person in scrubs, gesturing with her hands as she spoke. They seemed to be discussing something medical, their voices low and professional. Marcus tried to give them plenty of space as he approached, not wanting to interrupt what was clearly an important discussion. But as they drew closer, something unexpected happened. Tyler, who had been quietly resting against Marcus's shoulder, suddenly lifted his head. His small body straightened, and his eyes widened with an alertness that Marcus hadn't seen in hours. "Mommy," Tyler called out, his voice stronger than it had been all morning. The word hit Marcus like a physical blow. He stopped walking immediately, his heart beginning to race. Tyler was pointing directly at the woman in the business suit, his small finger extended with absolute certainty. "That's Mommy," Tyler said again, louder this time, his excitement cutting through his fever-induced lethargy. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not like this. He looked at the woman, who had stopped mid-conversation and was now staring at them with an expression of complete shock. The woman's professional composure cracked for just a moment. Her hand moved instinctively to her chest, and her carefully controlled expression revealed a flicker of something raw and vulnerable. Recognition. Pain. Something that looked almost like longing. "Tyler," she whispered, the name escaping her lips so quietly that Marcus almost didn't hear it. The world seemed to slow down around them. The busy hospital sounds faded into background noise. Marcus found himself staring at this stranger who somehow knew his son's name. This woman who Tyler was calling Mommy, with such innocent certainty. Marcus had always wondered about Tyler's mother. The boy had been left at a fire station when he was just a few months old, and Marcus had fostered him before eventually adopting him. The paperwork had been vague about the circumstances, mentioning only that the birth mother had been unable to care for the child. Standing here now, looking at this clearly successful, well-dressed woman, Marcus tried to piece together a story that made sense. How could someone who appeared to have everything together have given up a child? What circumstances could have led to such a difficult decision? The woman, Tyler's mother, apparently, seemed to be struggling with her own emotions. Her colleague had stepped back, sensing the personal nature of whatever was unfolding. She approached slowly, her eyes fixed on Tyler with an expression of wonder and heartbreak combined. "He's beautiful," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "He looks just like." She paused, unable to finish the sentence. Tyler reached out toward her, his small arms extended in the universal gesture of a child wanting to be held. The fever seemed temporarily forgotten in his excitement at seeing this woman he somehow remembered. Marcus felt torn between protective instinct and confusion. This woman was clearly important in the hospital hierarchy, but she was also, apparently, the mother who had given Tyler up. He didn't know what to think or how to react. I didn't expect," the woman began, then stopped. She looked at Marcus properly for the first time. "You must be his father. His adoptive father." "Marcus," he said simply, still processing the surreal nature of the situation. "I'm Drive. Sarah Chen," she replied. "I'm the chief executive officer here. And I was." She struggled to find the right words. "You're Tyler's birth mother," Marcus finished gently. Sarah nodded, tears beginning to form in her eyes despite her obvious efforts to maintain professional composure. "I was very young when I had him. I was in medical school, struggling financially, working multiple jobs just to survive. I wanted to give him the best possible life, with parents who could provide everything I couldn't." Marcus could hear the pain in her voice, the weight of a decision that had clearly haunted her for years. He looked down at Tyler, who was still reaching toward Sarah with trusting eyes. "He's been sick," Marcus explained, his voice gentle. "Fever, some kind of virus. We've been in the emergency room most of the night." Sarah's maternal instinct seemed to override everything else. "What are his symptoms? When did the fever start? Has he been eating?" The questions came rapidly, her medical training taking over. Despite everything, Marcus found himself reassured by her obvious concern. Whatever had happened in the past, she clearly cared about Tyler's well-being. "The fever started 2 days ago," Marcus explained. "It keeps spiking despite the medication. He's been listless, not eating much. That's why I brought him in." Sarah nodded, her professional demeanor returning but softened with personal concern. "Dr. Rodriguez is one of our best pediatricians. Tyler will be in excellent hands." They stood there in the hallway for a long moment, the weight of the unexpected reunion settling around them. Other hospital staff moved past, but Marcus barely noticed them. His entire focus was on this woman who had given him the greatest gift of his life. "How did you?" Sarah began, then stopped. I'm grateful. The reports I received through the agency said he was placed with a wonderful family. You clearly love him very much." Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness, but also something else. Gratitude, perhaps. This woman had made an impossible choice that had brought Tyler into his life. "He's everything to me," Marcus said simply. "I never expected to be a father, but when Tyler came into my life, everything changed. He's the best thing that ever happened to me." Sarah smiled through her tears, an expression of both sadness and joy. "I can see how much he loves you. The way he looks at you, that's the look of a child who feels completely safe and loved." Tyler, who had been quietly observing the adult conversation, suddenly spoke up again. "Mommy sad?" he asked, reaching once more toward Sarah. Without thinking, Sarah moved closer and gently touched Tyler's hand. The contact seemed to affect her deeply, and she had to take a moment to compose herself. "I'm not sad, sweetheart," she said softly. "I'm happy to see what a big, strong boy you've become." Marcus watched the interaction with a mixture of emotions. There was no denying the connection between Sarah and Tyler, but there was also no question about who Tyler's real parent was. Marcus was the one who had been there for sleepless nights, first steps, and countless moments of joy and worry. "I don't want to complicate your life," Sarah said, looking at Marcus. "I made my choice a long time ago, and I don't regret it. Tyler clearly has an amazing father. But maybe, Marcus found himself saying, surprising himself with the words. Maybe he could benefit from having more people who love him in his life. Sarah looked at him with surprise and hope. I would never want to overstep boundaries or confuse him. But if there might be a way. Let's focus on getting him healthy first, Marcus said. But after that, maybe we could talk. Really talk. The sound of approaching footsteps interrupted them. A doctor in pediatric scrubs was walking toward them, presumably drive. Rodriguez. Tyler Williams. The doctor called out. That's us, Marcus replied. As they prepared to continue to Tyler's room, Sarah hung back slightly. I'll make sure he gets the very best care, she promised. And Marcus, thank you. For everything you've done for him. For the father you've become. Marcus nodded, touched by her sincerity. As they walked toward Tyler's room, he couldn't help but think about how life had a way of bringing people together when they least expected it. The examination went smoothly. Dr. Rodriguez was thorough and patient, explaining everything to Marcus while keeping Tyler comfortable. The diagnosis was a common childhood virus that would run its course with proper rest and care. Throughout the visit, Marcus noticed Sarah checking in periodically. She never interfered or overstepped, but her concern was evident. Each time Tyler saw her, his face would light up with recognition and joy. As they prepared to leave the hospital several hours later, Sarah approached them one final time. Tyler was feeling much better, the fever finally broken, and he was back to his usual curious self. Marcus, Sarah said quietly, I meant what I said about talking. If you're open to it, I'd like to learn more about Tyler's life. Maybe find a way to be part of it, in whatever capacity feels right for both of you. Marcus looked down at Tyler, who was playing with a small toy car the nurses had given him. The little boy looked up at both adults and smiled his infectious toddler grin. I think Tyler would like that, Marcus said. And honestly, so would I. He deserves to know his story, and you deserve to know the amazing person he's becoming. Sarah's smile was radiant. Could I give you my personal number? Not as the hospital CEO, but as Tyler's birth mother. They exchanged contact information, both understanding that they were beginning something completely new and uncertain. But looking at Tyler's happy face as he waved goodbye to Mommy, it felt like the right thing to do. As Marcus carried Tyler out of the hospital and into the afternoon sunshine, he reflected on the unexpected turn their day had taken. He had come here worried about his son's fever and left with the possibility of expanding their small family circle. Tyler fell asleep in his car seat on the drive home, exhausted from the day's events but finally healthy again. In the rearview mirror, Marcus could see his son's peaceful face and felt overwhelmed with gratitude for the series of events that had brought them all together. Sometimes, Marcus thought, the most important moments in life happened when you least expected them. In the sterile hallways of a hospital, during a moment of crisis and worry, they had found something beautiful and unexpected. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Marcus felt hopeful about the possibility of building something new while honoring everything they had already created together.